Good afternoon, everyone, or morning for some parts of the country. Welcome to the webinar. We're going to get started. We're going to try to get through the first material as quickly as possible so we can get to our guests. Pam Workington is still working on getting in. Teams is giving her a hard time, but hopefully she's going to be able to join us. Before starting, we would like to acknowledge that the spaces in which we at the Institute work in Toronto are located in the traditional territories of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. Fergal Nolan National Laboratories in Saskatoon is located on Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis people. We thank them for their care of the land and pay respect to them and their ancestors. During the webinar, we ask that during the presentation portion that the audio and video be from the presenters only. To turn on closed captions, go to More, Language and Speech, turn on live captions. Please use the chat feature for any discussions and post questions arriving from the content in the Q&A. This will help us to find your questions for the allotted Q&A portion while allowing people to have a conversation in the chat. As the webinar is only 40 minutes in length and is immediately followed by our wellness session, time may not permit for us to answer all of them during the webinar. The answers will be posted on our website, along with a link to the video recording and a copy of the slides. This can be found under Education Webinars. I will be sending a confirmation of attendance email after the webinar and will include a link to the page with that communication. I will also include the topics covered and the length of time spent in the webinar, as some people have requested this to send to their professional associations. This usually takes about a week or so because we have to process the video before sending out the link. Today's webinar will begin with a brief presentation on radon and the requirements to test in the workplace. We are keeping the presentation brief in order to maximize the time with our guest interview, which will include Jill Robertson, Radiation Safety Manager at Environmental Health and Safety Office at Dalhousie University in Halifax, Shoushatarian, Manager of Nuclear Substances, Safety and Regional Partners, RSO, with the Ottawa Hospital, and Jillian Woods, Manager, Real Estate, Environment and Sustainability with Canada Post, who is located in Winnipeg. They have all been through the process of testing for radon in their workplace. Once the panel discussion is complete, participants will be invited to ask questions. Pam Workington, Executive Director of the Canadian Association of Radon Scientists and Technologists, CARST, and the Canadian National Radon Proficiency Program, CNRPP, will be here, hopefully, to help answer questions. The final 20 minutes today of the webinar will be a movement break led by Charmaine Wong of Jiang Tai Chi and Qigong in Richmond Hill, Ontario. This is a brief overview for people not familiar with radon and its health effects, but for more detailed information, we ask to see our previous webinars, Understanding Radiation, Radon, and Health Effects of Exposure to Radiation. Radon is a naturally occurring radioactive gas. It is part of the uranium-238 decay series. When it decays, a radon atom gives off alpha particle. Alpha particles are very damaging to living tissue and a known carcinogen. There's uranium everywhere on Earth. So radon is not something we can stop from forming. Because radon is one of the noble gases, it moves from the soil and can enter buildings where they're in contact with the ground if there's a point of entry. It can also dissolve in water and be released indoors or come from building materials, but these do not contribute as much to our exposure. Because it is not chemically reactive, we can breathe radon in and out. Alpha particles only damage our lung tissues if they're emitted inside the lungs. But when radon decays, it has several short-lived radioactive progeny, which are solids. When breathed in, they can settle in the lungs, where they will emit their alpha particles. When there's radon around, these progeny will be there as well. Since we cannot keep it from forming in the soil, we must try to keep it from getting into our buildings or increase ventilation if it's accumulating to high levels. And we cannot know if it is accumulating unless we test for it. We have no senses to detect radon and its progeny. Radon levels can vary a lot through the day and with the seasons. To get a representative average level, it is recommended that testing is done for at least 91 days. Further, it is recommended that testing is done during the heating season, as this tends to be when radon levels are at the highest. While testing a residential home may be a matter of having a single test kit in the lowest occupied level for 3 months and sending it in for interpretation, Testing a workplace building will most likely be more complex. Health Canada has a guide for radon measurement in public buildings, which are buildings that have a high occupancy rate and/or residency period for members of the public. Much of the information is also relevant to indoor workplace buildings not frequented by the public. Methodology for testing and interpretation is found within the guide. On the website of KARST and CNRPP, you can find information about acquiring test kits or finding mitigation professionals from suppliers who meet their standards. In their guide, Health Canada states, ideally, a CNRPP measurement professional would be involved in the measurement strategy and implementation of radon testing. In order to report level of radon, units are needed. If reported in becquerel per cubic meter, it is indicating the concentration of radioactivity. As a becquerel is a measure of radioactive decays per second, a becquerel per cubic meter is how many radioactive decays are happening in a cubic meter of air per second. Another unit which you may find when looking for limits for radon is the working level month. It is a measure of the energy concentration due to potential alpha decay times the time spent. It's a bit too technical to go into detail in the webinar, but one working level month is equal to 3.5 millijoule hours per meter cubed. I'll put a reference from CCOHS in the supplementary materials that explains this further. In the system of radiological protection, dose limits are used in situations where exposure to radiation is planned, such as in routine work around ionizing radiation. Exposure to radon in most workplaces is not considered a planned situation because it's due to something natural in our environment and not due to the nature of the work being done. In cases like these, constraints and reference levels are used rather than dose limits. Health Canada has set the following reference levels for radon. If the radon concentration is greater than 600 becquerel per cubic meter, mitigation should occur within 1 year. If the radon concentration is between 200 becquerel per cubic meter and 600 becquerel per cubic meter, mitigation should occur within 2 years. Note that for residences, new guidance just came out last night, whereby mitigation should occur in 1 year as long as if it's over 200 becquerel per cubic meter, but these still stand for workplaces. Thanks to Pam Workington for giving us the information just as it came out. For workplaces which do not have radon testing as part of their license with the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, the requirement to keep levels of radon below a certain level would fall to the legislation around occupational health and safety. The responsibility for occupational health and safety falls to each province and territory and to the Canada Labour Code for federally regulated workplaces. CAREX Canada and the Canadian Environmental Law Association completed an environmental scan of radon law and policy in Canada and the European Union. As you can see from the summary of the radon-specific requirements in workplaces across the country as currently provided by the CAREX Canada's website, the requirements can vary greatly. In addition to the ones shown, CAREX Canada lists other occupational exposure limits that do not specifically mention radon, but rather ionizing radiation in general. These would require that radon levels be kept below certain levels in order to comply. If there's no specific legislation for it in your jurisdiction or worker class, it is a possible carcinogen in the workplace, so it would fall under general duty clauses. At this time, I would like to introduce our panel guests. Jill Robertson is the Radiation Safety Manager at the Environmental Health and Safety Office at Dalhousie University in Halifax, Nova Scotia. She began her career in the world of radiation more than 25 years ago after completing a Bachelor of Science and a Diploma in Nuclear Medicine Technology from Dalhousie University. For 12 years, she worked at the IWK Health Centre as a pediatric nuclear medicine technologist while teaching for Dalhousie at the School of Health Sciences. 10 years ago, she returned full-time to Dalhousie as the Radiation Safety Manager at the Environmental Health and Safety Office. Jill's portfolio includes all ionizing and non-ionizing radiation programs, which include nuclear substance and radiation devices, lasers, X-rays, and radon. Jill is involved with the Canadian Radiation Protection Association, the CRPA, as a board of director. She is also a member of the Canadian Association of Radiation Scientists and Technologists. Over the years, Jill has developed a special interest in radon awareness and volunteers as a member of radon working groups across Canada. Shoushatarian is the manager of nuclear substances safety and regional partners RSO with the Ottawa Hospital in Ontario. He obtained an honors BSc in biochemistry from the University of Ottawa and a graduate certificate in forensic science from Mount Royal University. His knowledge of radiation management has been acquired through years of experience as a user in a research environment and his later transition into professional realm of radiation safety. He spent 6 years as a radiation safety officer at the University of Ottawa, overseeing operational procedures of approximately 50 research laboratories. Currently, he is manager of nuclear substances safety and regional partners RSO with the Ottawa Hospital. He is both a registered radiation safety professional and a certified radon measurement professional. He is the past president of the CRPA. Jillian Woods is a designated environmental professional, EP, with a master's degree in resource and environmental management from Dalhousie University. With over 9 years of experience, her work is focused on national coordination and implementation of environmental compliance and due diligence programs within real estate, facilities management at Canada Post Corporation. As a certified radon measurement professional and a contracted commercial management associate, Jillian leads Canada Post Radon Measurement and Mitigation Program in collaboration with health and safety and other internal teams. She is also passionate about drinking water and initiated the well water quality testing program for rural facilities. Recently, Jillian transitioned into her new role as Manager, Environmental and Sustainability, where she continues to advance environmental management and sustainability plans to ensure and maintain compliance with applicable legislation and corporate policy and strategy from her location in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So I'd like to thank all of our guests for being here and taking the time to talk about your experiences. I'm going to stop sharing the slide deck now, and I'll pull it up later so that we can see and everybody's window is not just tiny. So, and then I have to find Teams again. Here we go. So with that, let's see. Oh, I think we found Pam. And we just have to make, okay. So Pam's here, and that makes us happy. Pam's going to join us in the Q&A, the wider Q&A. So for right now, we're going to have Ali, Jill, and Jillian. And so we have our introductions. And again, thank you, Ali, Jill, and Jillian for joining us today. So what we're going to do is I'll just ask each of the participants to answer a few questions. If they kind of go, we'll see where it goes. And so we'll just start with Jill, if you don't mind. And the first question for all our panel guests is, what motivated you to ensure your workplace buildings were tested for radon? So we have a Jill and a Jillian, so let's start with Jill.
Just to complicate it, right?
Yes.
I'd say what motivated me stems from my previous work as a healthcare provider and now as a radiation safety professional. I feel it's part of my job to make people aware of radon and to test their workspaces. At the Environmental Health and Safety Office at DAL, a large part of our job is to actually educate people and to grow and foster a positive safety culture. And we believe that everyone has a right to work in a safe, healthy space. So for me, testing for radon is one of the ways that I get to contribute to this. So I think that's where my motivation comes from.
Thanks, Jill. And Ali, do you mind us answering the same?
No problem. Again, first of all, thank you for the invite. So as we all know, radon is the leading cause of lung cancer among non-smokers. I was motivated to ensure that our workplace and buildings are safe. And at the same time, I wanted to increase radon awareness at workplace. And this leads to having a healthier population, which is actually key to having a better workplace and safe environment. So that's why I got motivated for doing this testing at workplace.
All right, thanks, Ali. And Jillian.
Well, at Canada Post, we're a federally regulated workplace. So the motivation came from to confirm compliance with the current regulations. So action limit being 800 becquerels per meter cubed. So, and the thought process really was, if you don't test it, you don't know if it's there or not. And we really just, health and safety is a top priority at Canada Post, and we want to verify that our buildings are safe environments.
Yeah, so you can see, just for the audience, we have two universities, a hospital, a hospital, a university, and Canada Post, which is it still a Crown Corporation? Is that what it's considered? Yeah, okay. And the Canada Post is a federally regulated workplaces, but the other two are not. So for Jillian, it's mandated, but for the other two workplaces, it was a choice. So you can see the difference in the answer there as a result of that. And I'm sure, Jillian, you would also care about all these other things as well, but it was probably easier to get buy-in when it's mandated. And okay, this we're going to start with Ali. In terms of your organization's environmental health and safety goals, were you able to fit this into those overall goals within your organization?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question, because radon, unfortunately, was not on the health and safety top priority. But since we all know radon's radiation, our radiation safety department took the lead on this project in providing radon awareness training to the staff at the health and safety and occupational health meetings to increase awareness and get them notice the radon being noticed on the putting on the top priorities on their task to do. So
it took a little bit of work to bring up awareness in order to get this as a health and safety priority.
That's correct.
Okay. Jillian, I think with the federally regulated, how did that fit into the overall environmental health and safety picture at your workplace?
For us, really, we need to verify that the buildings are safe. And really, we when it started, we wanted to know what's the relative risk in our buildings. So we worked with our consultants to develop a phased approach for our buildings. But that's what became a priority. We started testing at a small subset of buildings, and then we started to learn as we went and saw what levels of radon were in our buildings and how it could be mitigated.
Okay, so it kind of grew as a priority over time, started small and then grew?
I think once we started, as we started to see more results, we started to see where's radon, what were the reasons why we might have higher levels of radon in some building designs versus others. That's where we could focus. Okay, we're going to prioritize these buildings over these buildings. And so I wouldn't say it became more of a priority over time, but we could focus.
It was a focus priority in certain areas there when it turned up. And Jill, in terms of what was it part of your environmental health and safety program, or did it take a lot of advocacy to get it there?
No, I think I'm in a bit of a different situation working at the Environmental Health and Safety Office and being a part of that team. Radon testing has been a part of Dalhousie for a number of years now. It's funny, I actually found this week a letter from the Director of Environmental Health and Safety back in May of 2007 to the University Board of Governors requesting their cooperation in proceeding with some radon testing. So our university started back in 2007, and we have full cooperation from the university and the powers of higher being. And so I'm very fortunate. I have the liberty to go out and test kind of, for the most part, where I want, when I want, and nobody questions that decision from me. So I think I'm in a bit of a different situation. We also kind of do a phased approach where we have many buildings on campus. We have several campuses, so we're looking upwards of 200 buildings. So we kind of test certain buildings over time. So I can honestly say, sadly, that we have not tested all of our buildings to date, but we are diligently working on completing all of those buildings. So once again, I am fortunate. I have the full support. It's kind of always been there, and I have the liberties to do what I want to do with radon testing. So
there's a lot of experience between the three of you, and not picking out any employer or anything, but just in general, just from your experience in the past and things. Does anyone have advice for people that may not have that as part of the environmental health and safety program, and they're not directly involved? Like, does anybody have any advice with approaching that? Would it be joint health and safety committees, maybe going to that, or a representative for someone if they're just the average worker?
I could start, and
Okay.
I guess I would start with health and safety. I think that was the first place I would start with, and also I will go to your senior management. Who is involved at the senior management level? You want to get them also involved at the early stages as well too. So those are the two avenues I will tackle.
Okay, and if it's a unionized environment, there may be.
Then you need the union as well. Actually, we did have the union representative also involved before we start testing as well. So
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Yep.
I can add to that. We created our communication strategy early on before we even started testing. Like, we engaged our national joint health and safety committees for all of our bargaining unions, labor relations, like many stakeholders. So you kind of need that before you start a program like this, so that you can set the expectations for, okay, where we're going to start and where is this going.
All right, so going right into that, and Jillian, it's what type of efforts did you take once the decision was made to go forward with this, to try to help your co-workers or staff at your organization to learn about radon?
Sure. The first thing I did was I became the subject matter expert, sorry. I started going to CARS conferences. I became a certified radon measurement professional myself, and then started to educate my coworkers first through just information sessions. We have standing offer agreements with our consultants as well, who specialize in this area. So having them do information sessions as well. Again, like I said before, we established communications or talk tracks, as well as just so that we could have program transparency. We do annual updates for how our program is moving along. What else? We're always when we do our test cycle, we're providing details about how we're deploying detectors and how we're retrieving them, not only to management but also to local employees. We've encouraged employees to learn about radon, to test their own home. We even reached out to our national CPAA union and they agreed to put some information awareness in their Postmaster magazine, which is great,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and do you think that, like, was COVID involved? Like, was this over the COVID period?
We started back in 2016, so we've been doing this now for quite some years, and we've had to adjust our program, based on COVID.
Yeah, so a lot of the buildings, I guess Canada Post, a lot of it would keep running, but then, some people will be working from home, and to get the information out there, you probably had to shift strategies to make sure people were still getting it when they weren't coming into the buildings.
We do info messages.
Yeah.
So, and they go out by email. So.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Jill, the same. So what types of efforts did you take to try to help coworkers or staff at the organization learn about radon?
Yeah, I have access to a large community of people working at the university. So over 6,000 staff and 2,100 students. So whenever I can, I like to take advantage of this. So oftentimes we're asked to give presentations across the university, different areas. So whenever it's applicable, that's usually my topic of choice is radon awareness. This year we've released news articles on our SharePoint site. So everyone at Dal looking for information about Dalhousie and through Dalhousie, whether it's HR or safety related information, they have to go to SharePoint. So there's a newsletter that we put out on SharePoint. Dal also has an email newsletter as well. So we put an article in there. Next week, I'm presenting at the University JOSH Committee meeting about radon. We've also created through our office a radon site through our EHS internal site. And so it's got lots of information there, links to external organizations and our Nova Scotia assistance programs for testing and mitigation. So we try to provide as much information as we can. One other thing that we've done is we've actually created what we call our radon maps for Dalhousie. So any of the buildings that we've tested, anyone can go on to these maps and see if their building was tested and what those actual test results were. So that's something we have on our site as well. And of course, as Jillian said, when we're deploying our test kits, we have the opportunity to talk to many, many people. Our offices and spaces are typically full of occupants when we're there. So we get the chance to teach them about radon. And of course, we always tell them they should be testing their homes as well. So lots of opportunities for us to reach people at Dal.
Okay, thanks. And Ali, the same, the efforts that were made, and they're probably ongoing as with the other two.
Yes, that's correct. But I would take a different angle. I always, as an organization, we wanted to get the senior management on board. So we did a lot of practice and presentation to get them on board in terms of before we even start doing radon testing at TOH. After we have their blessing, if you want to call it, then we went full force. We started a pamphlet. We created a pamphlet to inform staff and what we're doing and what's the risk for radon. Then we put on our website, SharePoint, about radon. We start having radon booths during the health and safety months. I think that was really beneficial because we could talk to staff and educate at the same time, increase awareness. We start putting articles in What's Happening, which is the internal newsletter at TOH, which talks about radon, and especially during November months, radon action month, which will increase awareness and making sure that staff are aware and they're doing their testing at home. Well, also social media. TOH has a Facebook. I know not many people use my Facebook, but we still use Facebook. So we did put some articles there every year, every couple of months, there to increase radon awareness. And lastly, we did we put these radon table tents, which had a blurb about danger of radon and distributed on each cafeteria at the hospital to increase also awareness and so forth. That's it.
Thanks, Ali. So starting with Jill, and maybe I should have asked just as an explanation of the size of your organizations. I think, Jill, you kind of gave an indication, but when you answer, if you don't mind saying like roughly how many buildings we're talking about, and so we understand the complexity of what was going on. Did you do the testing yourself or hire a professional company? And why did you decide to go that way?
Yeah, so at Dalhousie, we're looking at upwards of about 200 buildings. Some of them are very large, which, if I don't just test maybe one building in a year, it's I might test a couple of departments within a building because they're so large. So yeah, as far as testing, I do the testing. I am currently not a certified measurement professional. I am working on that, just in case anyone's wondering. So hopefully the next time you see me, or maybe in the new year, that will be a different situation. But right now, we have always hired we've never hired outside for professional testing. But what we do is if we were to find something over our 200 level, we would then hire a certified measurement and mitigation company to come in, retest, and then determine if we do need mitigation. So anything unusual or high for me, that gets moved over to our facilities management team, and then they kind of take it from there. So I do the initial testing, and then we would hire out if we felt there was a need to do so.
Yeah. And just in my experience, because way back when I was involved in testing before Karst was around, it is possible, right? But you have to be someone that's willing to read exactly where you put things and look at airflow and stuff. So it's not impossible to do it correctly as an individual. It's just a lot of work. And if it's not part of your regular job, it's sometimes easier to hire in a company. So that's like Jill doing that is fine. It's still within, even though you're working towards that. But people can test.
And I do follow the public measurement guidelines from Health Canada. That's what we do at Dell. So
okay. Ali, did you do the testing yourself or hire someone? And what's the relative size of how many buildings?
Yeah, that's I was going to start with that. We have 3 main campuses, about 12,000 staffs. Don't ask me what square foot because there's a lot of square feet to cover. We also have about I would say about 10 offsite satellite offices that we also take care of as well too. So we have a lot of square feet to cover. So what we did at TOH, we decided to do the testing ourselves. We currently have 4 radon measurement professionals, and since there's a lot of areas to cover, and as I mentioned, 3 campuses and all with off and partners and offsite, it was the most cost-effective way to do it ourselves. So that is one of the major reasons that we started to do the testing ourselves.
Okay, great. And Jillian, how many? You must have a lot of locations.
We have roughly 3,000 buildings. So we've tested almost all of them, not all of them quite yet. We have a few more test cycles left. But we have anywhere from, our large mail processing plants, would probably be about 1% of our buildings, to our depots, about 5%, to our small rural post offices, about 89%. And then we have like our administrative offices and auto service centers, that's about 5%. So yeah, large portfolio. So main reason that we decided to hire consultants to do our testing is because we have such a large portfolio, but also because we're a unionized environment. We wanted to, just make sure we were getting really good results.
Yeah. And just looking at, again, if we go back to the introductions, we have both Jill and Ellie are fairly experienced with the radiation and members of the CRPA and have that experience. So maybe the confidence to be able to step in there. Whereas, so there are different options and different costs, but again, taking a look at the CNRPP and the Karst websites can help you with a starting point and looking at how complicated it is and things like that. I'm just looking at the time. I'd love to talk for about 2 hours and pick all of your brains. One of the big questions, I think there's a couple more. There's one I'd like to get through and start with Ali. Did you find you needed to mitigate? And if so, what was that like? Again, did you do it yourself or did you hire a company?
Again, that's a very good question. No, so far, lucky. I don't know if you want to knock on wood, but so far all the rooms that we have tested of all of our different across our campuses, we're below the Health Canada guidelines limit of 200 becquerels per meter cube. However, if we do find a limit higher than the Health Canada guideline limits, unfortunately, I'm not a mitigation professional, but I will definitely hire a mitigation professional to mitigate and bring it below the regulatory Health Canada limit.
Okay, great. And Jillian, have you found some that are high?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we mitigate at 800 is the actual one. We follow the legal requirement. However, recently we've taken a more of a proactive approach. If there are higher levels, well above the Health Canada guideline, but still below the 800, we will also mitigate within 2 years. So
Yeah, and I assume
1
you've
year for
hired
above 800.
companies. Yeah.
We work
You're
with certified radon mitigation consultants as well as professionals or subcontractors. So.
okay, great. And Jill?
I, like Ali, have been fortunate that no, I have not found a place that's over 200. I know in the past there were a couple of spots, and we did hire external certified mitigators to correct situations. So
That's great. So there's a few questions coming in. Just I'd like to at least give some time to answer that, but and then we'll go around one last go around with advice. So some of the questions we'll just have to leave until Pam Workington and I will put together some answers to all of these, and then hopefully Jill, Jillian, and Ali may not mind if they're directed towards more the group, throwing in your answers. I'm just going to check the Q&A because I think there's been one sitting here. I'm just trying to see if there's ones that are general in terms of. I was hoping to bring Pam in since she worked so hard to get in here. In terms of, there was one big difference between a workplace and a home is the way the ventilation goes, right? We tend to run our furnaces and stuff all day, and in terms of workplaces, sometimes the ventilations and things are turned off during the night. So I was just hoping maybe to bring Pam in. Pam, are you there somewhere?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Can you provide insights on terms of getting radon levels during the day when the test kits are sitting there all day and night, and how that was one that came in from registration that I thought maybe would be a comment or
Sure.
something to think about.
Yeah, as part of the recommendations, Health Canada's guideline for testing in large buildings, after you've done a long-term radon test, so the first step is to test all ground floor contact rooms that are occupied 4 hours a day or more. And then if those are above guideline, then the second step is to do a week-long or a continuous radon monitor test so that you would determine if there is a variation between the occupied time and the overnight. So if the HVAC systems are sort of reduced when the building is unoccupied, theoretically the radon levels may go up, and then it may skew kind of that entire level. So there's not only a recommendation, but then there's also a calculation of how to take the long-term test and the shorter continuous monitor test and figure out what your occupied levels are.
Okay, thanks for that, Pam. Yeah, so there's a lot of details in terms of testing, and that's part of why having the professionals in helps, because they've been through the process and can help guide you through it. But again, if you're willing to dig through the paperwork and you have a bit of a background and feel that you can do it, it is an option, as two of our people have shown here.
Yeah, and just a note
yeah,
on that,
yeah.
we have had like feedback from a number of workplace organizations across the country where testing has been done incorrectly. So they've hired a mitigation professional to come in and fix, and then the mitigation professional finds out, well, you put the test in your crawl space, or you didn't do the test properly. And so now you've got to take another 3 months to go and actually do the proper testing. So make sure that you're following current guidance. I noticed, there's others that have tested and that, from years gone by, maybe following past guidance, but it has been updated. So make sure you're following current guidance.
Yeah. And like I said, back when I was testing a building, I don't think Karst and the CNRPP were around. So they're there to support, and it's a good starting point, right? So I'm just thinking, again, looking at the time and advice, if people have one takeaway for our people in the audience from the experience? Just a point to watch out for or advice that you could give, just kind of picturing these are people that might be interested in going back to their workplace and motivating for testing. What would you tell them? So let's just start. I'm just going from top to bottom with Jillian. What advice would you give?
Oh, it can be a lengthy process. So it's really just setting expectations. It could be by the time you've tested to the time a mitigation system goes in, it could be 2 years. So just when you're working with employees, just let them know, this is a long-term health risk. We have a plan to reduce the radon levels, and just be clear in expectations.
Yeah, so clear communication of expectation and risk is something. So did you see people who were kind of panicked about the fact that it was high and wanted it done overnight, or do you think you did a good job of communicating that ahead of time?
We've had a very positive, feedback overall. I was actually a surprise. We thought there would be more alarm, but no.
Okay, so you must have did a good job of letting them know. Ali, same thing, just in broad advice. You've been through this. What would you give advice to people that are just at the beginning trying to approach management and stuff about getting testing done?
I would say the major advice would be transparent, stick with the facts about the risk of radon, and get the senior management engaged and involved at the early stages. And it might not work at first time, and it didn't work for me at the first time either. Just don't give up and try again. So that's what I would say.
Okay, thanks, Ali. And Jill?
Yeah, I think my advice would be communication. Let people know before you show up knocking on their door to go in and start putting test kits around. That tends to cause a little bit of alarm. So always let them know you're coming in advance. Well, I'd like to send out some information about radon so they have the opportunity to read about it if they aren't in the know. And then it provides them the opportunity, like I said, to read about it, but then they can ask me questions when I come in if they don't understand or they have some concerns. So I get much better cooperation from the staff when they know well in advance that I'm coming and what those expectations are. Like, oh, this test kit has to stay here for at least 91 days. So you can't move it. You can't do this. You can't. So that would be my advice, is some good communication around what you're doing, why you're doing it, and give them the opportunity to talk to you about any questions or concerns that they have.
Yeah, because they may need to communicate back to you about the use of the space, right? There's information that you can take from them as well, because it might be this way now, but in a month's time something might change, right? So,
and that is very much an issue actually at Dal, is that continuous changing of occupancy and where people are placed. So that's a bit of a challenge for me sometimes.
Yeah. And Pam, I would like to thank Pam for bringing us the panel guest today, because she works closely with many different people across the country. So you've seen other workplaces as well. Do you have advice for people that are just starting the process?
Yeah, firstly, kudos to Jill and Ali and Jillian. Thank you. You guys have been a standout example. And so just really want to celebrate that. And thank you for taking your time today to share that. And so for the rest that haven't taken action, one of the comments or the fears that we often hear is that people think that this is going to panic their workplace. And like Jill has a really great example to look at. We are not seeing panic. There have been some examples of people who have kind of overreacted because they didn't have like information up front. And so we do recommend good communication. We also recommend being forward thinking. So this is clearly a health and safety risk. There's clear information about it. It has well recognized by Health Canada as well as other groups that recognize cancer risks. And so in most of our workplaces, the employer is responsible to provide a healthy workplace. And although it's not stated as radon in all regulation. It certainly is in Ontario. There's actually a norm is included, so there's more clarity in Ontario that workplaces must test for radon, that they're responsible for it. There's clarity in the federal guideline, like Jillian said, that they're responsible for it, but it really is part of a health issue. And so all workplaces really should be looking after this. And, you know, we do have resources for communication to help with that and all that sort of thing. So we really encourage everybody to you know, just dive in and start to take action on it.
Okay, thanks, Pam, Jill, Jillian, Ali. Again, we'll be sending out more information, but the two sites that I'd like to bring your attention to are karst.ca and the cnrpp.ca. Both have information that's slightly different. The CNRPP, it was established in 2014 as an agreement between the Canadian Association of Radon Scientists and Technologists and Health Canada to fulfill the need for a certification program with established guidelines for Canadian radon professionals. Today, the CNRPP continues to work closely with Karst and Health Canada to develop and uphold high standards of practice in the industry, support various organizations involved in radon, and increase awareness of radon effects, detection, and mitigation. So the more general information, Pam, correct me if I'm wrong, is you would find in the Karst, like for homeowners and for people that are looking for testing, whereas for the professionals, they do have information on that as well, but the professional site is the CNRPP site, more information about their standards and things. So for more information about radon testing mitigation, either by yourself or by a registered professional, please visit Karst or the CNRPP. And I think if I remember correctly, you know, there was a period of time, especially in the US, that radon testing has been around for a long time, and there might have been some question about people's professionality. Canada has this organization. If you're looking for people who have a professional stand, that's where you go. So we thank Pam for being here. As you know, we have the executive director here. We're very glad. And then, of course, if you have any questions about radon or any radiation safety topic, whether it's ionizing or non-ionizing, please feel free to contact us at the Radiation Safety Institute of Canada. We have a toll-free information service to support questions from employers, workers, and the public with respect to both types of radiation. We also provide consulting services for those who might need support in developing a radiation protection program or related services, including radiation surveys. If you have any further questions about ionizing or non-ionizing radiation, please feel free to contact us toll-free at 1-800-263-5803 or by email at info@radiationsafety.ca. You can also visit us at the web at radiationsafety.ca. Find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and we just joined Blue Sky, so we're there too. So with that, now, again, thank you to everyone. We are also concerned with whole body wellness, and as part of it's called the Radiation Safety and Wellness webinar. So we thank everybody that came for the radiation safety portion, and we encourage you, if you can stay, to participate in our 20-minute wellness break in the form of beginner Tai Chi, led by Charmaine Wong of Jihong Tai Chi and Qigong in Richmond Hill, Ontario. We thank Charmaine for coming back, and we realize some may have to go as their lunch breaks end, but appreciating that people participate as you can. So I'm going to end the slideshow, and we'll say goodbye to our guests, and we'll move on to, so bye Pam and Jill and Jillian and Ali.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. And Charmaine, we'll find Charmaine here.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen now. Can you hear me?
Yep.
At least?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. And let's see.
Charmaine and I came up with a better way, I think, of sharing from last year so that she's big on the screen.
So is it working right now?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. All right, so first of all, thanks, Glenn, for having us back again. Tai Chi is really beneficial to both our body and our mind. So I'm glad that we have an opportunity to practice it again today. All right, so first of all, let's get off our chairs, stand up, and feel energized, a lot of energy, but relaxed. All right, so let's do some warm-up exercises to begin. So first of all, place your feet to shoulder width apart. Okay? The first warm-up exercise that we're going to do is just stretching up and doing deep breathing. All right, now first of all, place the fingers together, interlace them, and place them in front of your waist. Then slowly bring the hands up to about chest height. Then turn the palms up and stretch straight up to the ceiling where you breathe in. Then let go of your fingers, open the arms sideways, bring the hands back down, bend the knees slightly, and then we're gonna go repeat. All right, so now bring the hands up again, breathe in as you go up. And as you bring the arms down, breathe out, and gently sit down a little bit. Let's repeat a couple more times. Try to straighten the arms, raise them to the side of your ears as you stretch up and breathe in. As you open the arms, breathe out, gently sit down a little bit. That way you can warm up your knee joints and your hip joints as well. Again, breathe in. Last time. You stretch up. You don't need to arch your lower back. Just keep the spine straight. Open. And bring the arms back down. All right. Just straighten back up. Now we're going to move on to the second warm-up exercise. Doing also stretching up as well. A little bit different. This is more Tai Chi basics. All right, so now open the arms sideways a little bit, making sure that the arms form a big V shape instead of 180 degrees horizontal. Now at the top, turn the palms towards each other. Sit down, using the core, draw the arms down through the elbows. And then as you further place your hands down, stand back up. Again, open, stretching out and up without tightening or stiffening the shoulders. Turn the palms towards each other and sit down. And straight back up. Repeat. You can also do some more breathing patterns as you raise your arms, breathe in. As you sit down, use your core to draw the arms up. Relax. Let's do that a couple more times. Stretch out, relax your shoulders. Use your core to draw the arms down. One last time. Choose them slowly, mindfully. That's why it's also called a moving meditation. Right. Now after some warm up, let's do some real Tai Chi. First of all, we should review some of the stances that we're going to use today. There are two major types of stances used in Tai Chi. First is the horse stance. With the horse stance, place the feet back to at least shoulder width apart. If you can sit down lower, you can place them further apart. The toes pointing forward. Now try to squat down a little bit without leaning the body forward. Take a break and we can straighten back up. Let's go down again. Now the horse stance, I'm going to show you a side view of it. Requires us to have a balance between all the elements going forward as well as all the elements going backward. So the main thing that is going forward, your knees. So you have to balance the forward motion of the knees with the backward motion of the hip. And And then you would be able to keep the upper body straight up. Again. And one last time. The horse stance is, like I already know, it's very important in any type of martial art, which Tai Chi is one. All right, so now with that horse stance, let's try to practice a little bit of moving with the horse stance. Because in the first move that we're going to do, cloud hands, we're going to move sideways. Now again, going down slightly, go very low. Let's take a step sideways, whichever way you want. Now, what I'm going to do later on is that I will be your mirror image. So right now, if you want to follow the mirror, I will be moving to your right side. As you put the feet closer back together, don't place them side by side. We want a little bit of width between them for better balance. Okay, now we're going to move back to your left side. So you can see, or maybe you can feel that as well. This is going to be practicing your lower body strength. And as we do that slowly, it's even going to be more challenging. What you want to do is to make sure that the weight transfer is very clear cut. Draw the foot as you step. Have it in control. All right. Now let's practice the hands in terms of the movement called cloud hands. Now cloud hands look like this. So one hand is at about chest height, and the other hand you just place it in front at about waist height. The top hand, we're going sideways, it's like floating like clouds. Open your shoulders as you do that. So wide, big circles formed by your arms. As you move to your right, the right hand is on top. As you move back to your left hand is on top. And then you switch. The Yang style requires us to have our top hand, the palm facing ourselves. Many styles of Tai Chi, Yang style is the most popular. All right, now after practicing the hands a little bit, let's try to do it with the footwork that we just learned. All right, so now we're going to move to your left side a little bit, we're going to move to the right side. Now, first of all, sit down a little bit to a horse stance. You can give me a high horse stance. Put your right hand up, left hand is down there in front of the waist. And then you step to your right. After you place the feet together, closer together, you switch your hands because our weight is transferring to our left side. Then we switch our hands again, and we take a further step to the right, so the right hand is on top. We switch the hands again because again, we're going to transfer our weight back onto the left foot. When your weight is fully on the left foot, step the right foot. Straining our balance because we are stepping really slowly. So there are lots of moments that we are actually standing on one leg. Right, now we're going to move back to the other side. So going back to your left side. Let's take a step to the left. Left hand is on top. Switch the weight. And switch the hands. Try to do it slowly with control. Placing each and every step softly, lightly on the floor. Let's do a couple more steps. let's try to do the second move that we would like to cover today. The second move's name is called parting wild horses mane. So it looks a little bit like this. We're just going to show you quickly how it looks like. All right, we're going to practice our footwork and our hands is separate. Now, first of all, this is a different stance from what we did just now. This stance is called the bow stance, where we have one foot in front and one foot at the back. Now, a bow stance looks like this, with the front foot facing directly to the front. The back foot turned out a little bit to about 45 degrees. The 2 feet should be about hip wide or shoulder wide, and the weight is more on the front foot. Right, and you keep your body straight. So side view, it kind of looks like this. So this is how it should look like. Right. Now let's practice the bow stance together a little bit more, taking turns with both left and right foot at the front. So first of all, when we go from standing like that with the toes facing forward to taking the first step of a bow stance, first of all, let's put our hands on the hip and where to place them for now. Now let's say we put our left foot forward first. So we're going to turn the other foot, your right toes out to 45 degrees. Move your weight entirely to your right foot. Lift your left foot. Place the left foot forward with the heel down first. And then you slowly transfer your weight to mostly like 60 to 70% of the weight of your front foot. Okay, now let's try to do that the same side. One more time. Turn your right toes out. Moving weight is very important. Transfer the entire weight to your right foot. And gently place the heel of your left foot forward. And then you slowly transfer weight to the front foot. Alright, now let's practice the other side. Now let's turn your left toes out to about 45 degrees. Gently turn the body as well to align with the left side. When you have transferred the weight to your left foot, gently put your right heel forward. We're going to move the weight and turn back square to the front. And let's do that again. Turn the left toes out. Move the weight. Bending the knee joints and the hip joints. When the weight is on the left, pick up the right heel, right foot, put the heel down, and slowly transfer the weight. And now you're going to face the front. All right, now with the limited time that we have, that's all we can practice. Let's practice the hands now for the parting wild horses mane. Now, there are two parts to the hands movement. First of all, there is the whole ball. We call this a whole ball as if you're holding a ball in front of the body, and then you turn a little bit sideways as you turn the toes. The palms would be more or less facing each other. Top hand, palm facing down. Bottom hand, palm facing up. The two arms form two big semicircles. All right. Now, as we do the move, the arms, then we're going to separate it into the parting wild horses mane move. As we separate the two hands, the bottom hand becomes the top hand going diagonally to the other corner, and the top hand just presses down in front of the body. Let's do that again. Now, when the body is slightly turned to the right hand is on top, the left hand is at the bottom holding the ball. And then part two of the move is you separate the two hands. And the body turn back to face the front. Let's do that one more time. Same side. Hold. Okay, now let's repeat that on the other side. Slightly turn your body to your left side. And this time, the left hand is on top. Right hand is at the bottom. Palms more or less facing each other. And then you separate both hands. Both hands lengthen forward. Let's do that again. Hold ball, part one. Left hand on top. Then separate the two hands, part two. The hands go a little bit diagonal. Let's do that one more time. Same side, we're gonna add our foot load. Okay, now we can add our footwork to this move, taking just one step forward. Now let's start with turning the right toes up 45 degrees. When you move your weight to the right foot, you do a whole ball on the right side with your right hand on top, left hand at the bottom. Then pick up your left foot, place the heel forward. As you move the weight forward, you separate the two hands. Now you're facing forward with the hands in diagonal. Okay, now we can place the foot back and let's do the same side again. Turn the right toes out with the body turn as well. You want the whole body to be aligned. Right hand over the left hand, hold ball. Slowly pick up the left foot, place the heel down gently. As you shift weight, you slowly turn the body and square to the front while separating the hands. Let's do that one last time on the same side. Turn the right foot. Move the weight. Hold ball. Put the left heel forward. Transfer weight to the front foot. Turn the body square to the front as you separate the two hands. All right, now let's practice the other side. Left foot turned out 45 degrees. Body slightly turned to the left side as well. Move the weight entirely to your left foot. Now place the whole ball, left hand on top, right hand on the bottom. And put the right heel forward gently. As you transfer weight, turn the body towards the front, open the two arms. Okay, now let's do it again. More times, maybe one more time. Left foot turn out, left hold ball, weight on your left side, body slightly turned. Place the right heel forward. Move weight. And separate the two hands. All right, so that's the time that we have today. Before we go, we'll just do a quick cool down and catch our breath a little bit if any one of us is out of breath. All right, so now let's do 3 circling with the arms. Turn the palms up. Bring the hands up to about waist or chest height. As you breathe in, turn the palms to face yourself and place them back down as you breathe down. Now let's do that 2 more times and really focus on your breathing and your own body. Up and breathe in. Down and breathe out. One more time. Breathe in. Right, and with that, we'll finish this session today, and I'll turn it back to Lynn.
So thank you, Charmaine, for being here with us today. Again, it's about whole body wellness. It's about traditional occupational health and safety. It's about radiation safety as well. So thank you for helping us, Charmaine, to think about how to, take some time to calm down, concentrate on our breathing and our balance and our movement. So with that, we're going to end the meeting for today. I'll get the materials out as soon as I can. And we will hopefully see people again next time. See you then. Bye.